Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Fun Astrology video podcast. Thomas Miller here for Wednesday, May 4th. And we have a very important chart trigger to take a look at. Big, major headline that happened on Monday night. Now, I went to bed Monday night, and the podcast was already done for Tuesday. So that's why we didn't talk about this yesterday. But I woke up to the news, and I didn't see it before I went to bed. And I haven't actually looked at it through the day yesterday, so I'm pretty ill-prepared from a news perspective. I just saw the event, but let's take a look at it astrologically because there is a big trigger here. The first thing that we'll take a look at is what's called the Moon Wobble. All right, now what is this? First of all, it doesn't even involve the moon. It's just points in the sky. But when the sun conjoins the nodes of the moon, whether it's the north node like it is here, or the south node, or when the sun hits one of those positions we call the bending of the nodes, simply a right angle, a 90-degree square aspect to the nodes of the moon, that's the peak of this phenomenon called Moon Wobble. And the Moon Wobble is a term that I came across from a guy that used to do radio shows in Los Angeles years ago. He's way past retired now, but he followed this. There's very, very little online about it, but it is an interesting observation to watch from the point of the conjunction. So here we have 12 degrees for the sun, 22 degrees for the north node. That's a 10-degree separation. So in 10 days, the sun is going to conjoin the north node, and that is the peak of the Moon Wobble. We back up 3 weeks prior to that. So that would put us into the last part of April. And then the waxing part, you go 1 week, 7 days past. 3 weeks, 21 days prior, 7 days past. So it's a 28-day total window. Fortunately, after it peaks, the energy is just like a moon that has changed signs, like from a full moon to a new moon. It is diminishing. Now, what happens during a moon wobble? Well, typically the moon wobble is attributed to things like catastrophic events, big major events like this, also storms, earthquakes, this kind of thing are what moon wobbles typically bring collectively. Now, I haven't experienced them that much personally, so maybe it's a more collective energy. That's how it was taught to me. But just think of Mercury on steroids with Uranus in the house, and if you look at all of this, they are all in the house. So this was obviously a big one. And right in between the sun and the north node right now is Uranus, and right over the county line is Mercury. So all the players certainly are there. So I think that's one contributing trigger factor that is really significant astrologically. So whenever we talk about the wobble of the moon wobble in the future, we will remember that this Supreme Court decision came down, or the exposure of it, I guess, and maybe they'll change their mind. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't connected with all of the details of yesterday's news on Tuesday, but we'll see how this unfolds. Now, that's one piece. The other piece that I think is total, and it is very interesting to me that Uranus is right in between that. Now, let's go back to the other configuration. Put up the United States Sibley chart. This is the Ebenezer Sibley, and I am going to hop over to equal signs here now on this. And then on the outer ring, we have the current transits. The United States 6th house rules health. Now, we could argue a little bit on this, but the judiciary would be up here in the 9th house. We're not going to consider that right now because there's not much going on up there. So let's just stay with the 6th house. And the United States has in its natal chart Uranus just about 4 degrees away from leaving the 6th house, crossing into the 7th house. So it is solidly, this is not just 1 degree. This is a solid sixth house Uranus. Surprises in these areas. Health is certainly one of them. Now, a couple of weeks ago on the audio podcast, Uranus was over here at 12 degrees. And we were flagging this saying, wow, when things get right on the cusp, you have to watch because the energy of them gets magnified. The energy of what it's trying to do is amplified. It's amped up when a planet is right on the cusp of a house change. Well, Uranus was there. And I was mentioning two other Taurian characteristics because we are talking about the house of Taurus here. Two other Taurian characteristics being food, the food supply, we've been seeing those headlines, and also money, because we know that we're under this influence that's going to get close again of the Saturn-Uranus square that we had happen 3 times last year. Well, I didn't know what the Supreme Court was looking into, but health, yes. I mean, that could have been one that we certainly could have mentioned. And obviously, I think we're all kind of done with pandemics, so we don't want somebody coming along saying, watch out for another health-related pandemic. But I just didn't see this one coming, I got to tell you, because I wasn't following. I don't follow the news that closely, and I'm really getting more determined to just follow the chart. I'm perfectly content with what this shows, and then when something comes up in the news, we'll be there. But I don't want to go trying to chase down news stories, if you know what I mean. So now Uranus has moved over to 14 degrees. So here's this cast again. Here's the forming up Moon Wobble, all in the 6th house, and all getting ready to move over eventually Uranus in the natal chart in that position. So again, this just sets up this surprise, this shock, and the same kind of out of the blue, like where did this come from, could happen with those other areas. The money, and I know what you would say it didn't come out of the blue. They've been debating and contemplating this for quite a while. And how long does it take to write a Supreme Court opinion? I don't know, but I'll bet it was closer to Uranus being closer over here to this cusp when they started writing it, don't you think? So I think that obviously the astrology has been very spot on, very significant here, and showed us that, yes, this is a surprise decision. Now, there's one other piece of this, and we can actually just stay right on this chart and look at it. Here is the United States Pluto return. We had it in February. We're going to have it 2 more times this year as Pluto is now in retrograde. It will swing back. It only has to go 2 more minutes, and then it will hit 33 minutes. I'm sorry, 1 degree, 2 minutes. But it will get there, what's the date? Is it July that it hits again? And then when it turns direct, it will strike it again the 3rd time before moving on. Now, what happens after that is basically 1 more year, 2023, and then we start this dance as Pluto moves into Aquarius. It's kind of like this move over, come back, move over, come back, move over for good, and then finally Pluto will be in Aquarius for 20 years, till 2044. This is going to be a time when there will be a constant challenge, basically, between I am demanding my rights. I mean, what is the essence of this decision that's being challenged? That I have a right to make my own medical decisions, and I should be guaranteed that right. And now it looks like this right is not going to be federally protected. It will be transferred to the states to decide. That's one side of the argument. The other side of the argument is the more heavy-handed authoritarian debate, which I'm not wondering if this thing doesn't turn into at some point. Who knows what the backwash of this leaked announcement will be. But the other side of the coin is the authoritarian heavy hand. And as Pluto is getting ready to leave Capricorn, it's only got a couple of more degrees there. When it finally gets moving again after this retrograde, it will cross into Aquarius, and we'll see a little bit of what it looks like. As it is crossing, here we are dealing with these old structures, these old areas that now are coming into the microscope of opinion and evaluation, and we are going to see this, I think, across many more areas in our society. And this is worldwide. Here's a big one in the United States, but what about Europe? It's still under the same Pluto. Now, granted, it doesn't have the Pluto return, but it seems like a lot of the things that Pluto wants to challenge are indeed going to be challenged through this aspect. So I don't know what all is going to come, but I just see that this was really totally spot on with the astrology of lining this up. Very Plutonian, very Pluto exiting Capricorn, moving into Aquarius, and definitely very much a sixth house political issue. I hope that makes some sense. I hope that gives you a wonder and an astonishment at the chart that predicted this. It was there. I didn't bring it out, but it was there. And it certainly confirms what we've seen already. And who knows where it will go from here. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you have a great Tuesday, and I'll see you back, or Wednesday. I'm stuck on Tuesday because it was like this gap day. But have a great Wednesday, and I'll see you back tomorrow.